Look at that. That was quick. There we go. I just clicked on it. Sweet. Boink. Here we go. So we are back. Just getting a little set up here. Make sure. LS, PWD, Unit 4, D5, instructor examples. Awesome. So over here for now. Cool. Back to Ruby. Ruby. More Ruby. So we're going to be doing the first part of the afternoon lecture is to do a Ruby console game. So we're going to do a Ruby console game, and then we'll move into the larger lecture. So I slacked it out. Get into your student examples. I'm in instructor examples here. Student examples. Get all set up. This should do it. A little bit more on this side. Maybe zoom out a little bit. There we go. That looks better. Awesome. Well, just a little smaller. This up. This here. There we go. That looks good. All right. Clear. Awesome. Let's get started. So, doing a Ruby console game. So, I'm going to touch a new file here in instructor examples. I'm going to say maybe console game.rb, right? Console game.rb, nothing in there. And so we can talk about puts. I know Matt went over this yesterday, you know, p versus puts versus print, what those do again. You know, p calls an inspect on an element, which will display it with all its information, including quotes if it's a string. Puts just prints the element without extra information. And like p includes a new line character, and then print just also prints. It doesn't include a new line character. Okay, and then get information, right? So let's take a look here. Puts, write something, right? Okay, and we'll grab some input is equal to gets, and then puts, you wrote, input, right? Looks like, oh, I put too many in here. Okay. Looks like string interpolation from JavaScript. You know, once again, we're working with a console game, so the two most important things with a console game is to grab input and then show something to the terminal, right? So we do Ruby. So what happened here? Ruby console game. Oh, so Ruby console game, right? So it wants me to write something. Okay, so we can write something. Hey, something. And it just tells us you wrote something, right? Not too crazy. Pretty basic stuff. Okay, so gets also includes the new line character. Okay, so therefore a check on the input, it's going to need to include it. So if we do puts you wrote something, if right here, so let's do this, puts you wrote, instead of that, I'm just going to put, hey, you wrote something, and we can say if input is equal to something, new line, if there was a new line, right? Then we'll see it. So let's see. Save it. I'll run it. You wrote something, should be equal. Oh, here we go. One mistake. Should be equal, equal, right? So clearly right here, it's telling us that this should be equal, equal. Okay, let's take a look. Write something. I'm going to run it again because it had that error now that I saved it. Write something, something, write something. Boop. So pretty much the same thing, right? If input is something with a new line, it'll output it. But what if I put nothing? Oh, still does it, right? Still outputting it, conditional logic. If input is something, new line. So let's see if we can use gets. And this was when we were reviewing the Ruby methods, right? So let me just make sure. I don't want to keep going too quickly here. Boink. Okay. Making sure we at least have that. So just, I'll give you a moment. Make sure your file contains that, and we can. It's all about typing this stuff out. We'll talk about chomps. And chomps is something that helps us, right? Remove white spaces. I think, Lauren, you had gone over chomp. And we'll see it. To remove the new line character, okay? Write something, you wrote something. Good. If you did post, if you didn't yet update the algo practice spreadsheet also, just want to make sure, put your names in there, put the link. I want to take a look later, review, maybe even provide some feedback to the pseudocode, to the algorithms. So please make sure you update that spreadsheet. I'm going to get it updated by the end of the day. Whether I have to reach out to you directly and be like, update it now. So just take that initiative and get it done. Sweet. So we got 8, 16, looks pretty good. Ruby's pretty.
Hey, Joe, can you just post the link to that spreadsheet one more time so I can do it?
Sure.
Thank you.
Oh, I did post it. I posted it just before lunch.
Oh, I didn't even see it. My bad.
Okay. Sweet. 19. Awesome. All right. So we're going to extend this to say, hey, input is gets chomp here. All right. Let's save it. And once again, we'll just run it. Something. Bloop, right? So now it isn't outputting it, right? So I type something as if input contains that new line. It isn't outputting it, right? So if I remove this, let's see, if I was to just delete, let me try this. Copy, I want to keep it there so we have a reference point, right? So if I get rid of this, let's see, Ruby, write something, and then it works. Awesome. So Chomp is going to remove the new line character. Okay. Wrote something, cool. All right, so we're going to begin the hangman now. Okay. So I'm going to, that was our little console game. I'm going to comment. Do we need to comment that out? No, because we definitely need to capture some information. And we're going to actually do it down here. Yeah. So I'm going to comment this out. All right. So let's begin this hangman game. So an array, Dictionary is a dictionary in Ruby. So I'm typing this all out. I'm just going to copy it. All right. That's our dictionary. It's an array. And it's going to act like an array. It's going to do everything that an array does. And if we're playing Hangman, obviously the game of Hangman is to guess a particular word, right? We have a certain number of guesses. We do something similar to this in JavaScript. We've done it in some cohorts where once again, another algorithm or Unit 1 game they would create. I know some of you opted to kind of do a little bit of a game for Unit 1. So sometimes people choose to do Hangman to do that. I have a couple of code pens too from previous students that built it. Pretty cool. And they made it visual too. You could put a little body there, and if you got it wrong, a little head, and you had to capture the letters. It was kind of cool. So we're going to grab a sample from the dictionary, or AKA array, right? So if I say word is equal to dictionary dot sample, we're going to get a sample of one of those words. And, we can test that out. Hey, puts word. If I save this, let me get rid of my console. Let me make it a little bigger. Run it. Look, honey. All right, honey. Just going to keep getting the same one. All right. Oh, potato. All right, honey, potato, rice. Okay. Once again, if it's a random value, if I'm choosing a random value between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things, there's a good chance I might choose the same random number again, right? So sometimes when you're doing these randomizations, choosing a random thing, you might want to maybe remove it from the array or something so that you don't choose it again, so you can cycle through all the words. Last thing you'd want to do is have the user, play Hangman and be like, great, I figured out potato, I want to go next, and then all of a sudden potato comes back. Right? I just solved potato. Why would you give me potato again? That doesn't make any sense. So we know that we can grab. That's what sample is doing, right? Sample will, look at this. I'm already defaulting to JavaScript. Dot sample will randomly pull an element from dictionary. Okay? So now we have one. Okay, so now we're going to start, putting some more info so that they could see. So I'm going to say puts. Guess which word I secretly chose. Okay? Guess what word I secretly chose. And then puts. The word has, we're going to give them a little clue. Word dot length. It keeps doubling up on my length letters. Okay. Let's make sure we're all caught up with that. Now, I'm going to save it. I'm going to run it and just see what happens. All right. That's it. Guess which word I chose. Already see a little space there. Secretly chose, and the word has how many characters. So once again, we can visually see the words themselves and how many characters they have. Ultimately, in a real game, you wouldn't, you would see little placeholders. You would know the word has that many characters, right? And then the game is about guessing those individual letters. 9, 10, 11, 12. Looks good. Coming up. Sweet. All right. think we could push the envelope there. Looks like we got 11, 15, 16, 17. All right, and we'll do this. Let's move on and say if input is equal to word, right? So input is, obviously we're going to need to undo this so we can grab our input, right? So doing that, commenting that out, it's going to prevent us from capturing. So we will do that. Let me just finish this. Puts, yep, you got it. The word was word. Right? Okay. And then we'll have an else. Okay. Puts, wrong. Okay. Puts T, because we're going to want input from them, and we want to kind of insinuate or convey that pressing the letter T would try again, or pressing the letter Q would quit the game, right? Okay. And then we're going to say, again, we're creating another variable here. I love how Ruby, you don't have to use vars and lets. There is the concept of consts. If variables are in uppercase, they're going to be kind of flagged as a const. But the fact that we don't have to use vars and lets, we have that kind of freedom now. In JavaScript, if you don't use a var, let, or const, it becomes a global variable. It could be in a function, 5 levels deep. I give something, create a variable with no var, let, or const, that variable gets elevated to the highest level in that particular file. So we're just going to create another variable because, once again, they're going to go again, right? So we're going to say gets chomp dot down case. What we're trying to do here with the down case is standardize the input, right? Might even put a little note here. What we want to do is standardize the input, right? All of our words are lowercase. So if they're going to be putting in uppercase words, then we want to downcase it so we can do the comparison. Because I don't know, I don't know what the user is going to be typing in. So as a developer, I have to make some assumptions that, hey, like that's one of those questions. When we're talking about algorithms and questions, if they're saying, hey, we want you to do this thing game-like, and it takes input, and the user gets to put something in, one of those questions should be, should we assume that the user might be typing in the characters in uppercase? Should we standardize the format, right? It's a great question to ask. And we can say, if, again, is equal to Q. So once again, we're conveying here that that's what they should type. Hopefully that's intuitive for them. Puts, okay, and then we end, right? End the if, and then we end the else, right? Kind of like, I don't know, when they're talking pseudocode, maybe that's where it came from. When I convey how to write the good pseudocode, when we do if, else, then we end if. There's a loop, we do a loop, and then end loop. Like we state that those are the beginning and the ends, okay? So if we were to run this, I'm just going to go up here real quick and just kind of undo that input. So we have something. But let me knock this out so everyone has it. Okay? Just make sure everyone has it. And we'll test it out. Okay? Input is equal to word. Again, we need some way to get word. If we don't do that, we won't get it. And we could put the puts as well, so that they know to write something. Otherwise, the terminal's just kind of hanging. Maybe we want to say, hey, you wrote input so that they would see what they wrote, In the end, we want to provide the user with as much information, right? As much information in order to do the thing we want to do. Because I get that a lot when I'm teaching. I'll give out something and I'll explain it maybe once, maybe not in depth. And when I start getting, hey, I don't know where to begin, I realized I didn't give enough instructions. I didn't clarify all of the steps, make sure everyone was on the same page as I was going through it. I just assumed everyone was just kind of paying attention and like I did it one time. Hey, you should all know what to do now. That's not the case. So I'm going to play a game. Let's give the user all the clues they need in order to play the game effectively. Okay? Good. Looks like everyone's catching up. I'm just going to test it out. You catch up. I'm just going to, call the thing. Let's see. Oh, hey, write something. Awesome. What am I going to write? I don't know. Let's, does T work? Boom, you wrote T. Hey, word has 6 letters. Oh, okay. Well, writing something now, right? I didn't get the clue. So I grab the input, write something, I grab the input and the input word, that's great. If input is equal to word, it says puts, you got it, right? But when we said puts the word has the length, once again, it's kind of, I don't know. It's not, oh, here we go. Let me get rid of this. That's why. This one was moved in, right? Yep. No, it's right here. Puts, you got the word was, no, that's exactly it. But it's just giving us another tip, right? So wrong. Okay, what do I want to do? I want to try again. So T, and then it ends. And then you're like, huh, let me try this again, right? I don't know. Write something. So I'm going to try T again. Maybe I got it. Oh, you got it. That's great. Look, got it on the first try. I want to get it wrong though. Like, once again, I'm trying to, it shouldn't be T now. Watch. All right. So if I try again, it ends. So our construct here, what we have, isn't working to perpetuate the loop. And so what we're really trying to do is like create something like I would say like a while loop, right? A while loop would continue to do its looping construct until a condition is met. So unless it's Q, unless you type Q, we'd boom, do the thing again and keep doing the thing, or you guess the word. So 2 things would end the program. Typing Q or guessing the word. Those are the 2 conditions. Otherwise, it's going to keep and perpetually do this, right? So what we can do here is I'm just going to tab that over, right? I'm tabbing it over because I'm going to encapsulate inside of a loop, right? And it's great. It's like, here's a loop. When we're talking about pseudocode and I say, hey, you can say iterate or you can say loop. Sometimes I think some of that pseudocode construct came from like Ruby language because loop is the key word that we're doing here. And so we would loop and do the following, kind of like a do while loop, like do this thing first, and then while the condition is true, keep doing the thing, right? So sometimes we want something to run immediately, at least one time. Oh, here we go. And I'm going to put an end here. So I'm just encapsulating this do and just give some space there. We can see this do loop. The loop itself is going to run. It's going to run this code, okay? And so I'm going to move the input. We had the input up here. Input. Now we're moving. We're going to copy it because the user still needs to input something, right? So then I'm just going to copy that. Let's put that in here. I think it's a copy. I want them to type something first and then run through. Actually, no, right? if this loop runs, once this loop runs here, we're going to get the word, and then we're going to go through it. So I would take both of these, like, hey, write something. So I would put both of them here. And then, you know, I'll comment out these. We don't need those other ones. I'm just going to save that. And that's our code up till now, right? So all I did was move the puts in there. So I'm eliciting them to type in some sort of input, okay? They'll capture the input, right? So, you know, capture user input, right? And then compare, right? Compare. And then once again, if they're not, then we'll run it again. So we're going to edit this a little bit as well. So with this do loop, right, we're still going to say, hey, if inputs, you know, we're going to say, yep, you got it. And then we are going to break out of the loop, right? And break is the same kind of keyword that's in JavaScript. Break allows us to break out of a loop. We can also use it, I think, Owen, when you were doing switches, you referenced break possibly, like in the switch. Otherwise, the switch looks for multiple things. But, you know, if we were in a for loop and we're like, hey, we found the thing, break, and let's get out of it, okay? So we could break the loop, so there we're out of it. Or, once again, let's go into the else. We could put's wrong, ask them to try again or quit. Once again, gets chop, we're going to want to get their input, right? Same here. We're putting it in down case here. I should put it in down case here as well, right? I would say down case here, once again, there's no reason why we would put this in down case to have them try again, because there's a good chance they may even fail the first time. And then here, after we do this, instead of, you know, if again, right? We can just keep the perpetuation of this. So I'm just going to comment that out. So we know that it was there. I'm now going to break if, again, is equal to Q, right? So we're just going to keep going through this state here. So let's take a look, all right? So let me do this. Let me put the whole function there. Not function, or a whole looping construct. I'm going to test it, make sure that I don't have any errors, right? Hey, oh, guess which word I want to choose? The word has 6 letters. Awesome, 6 letters. Well, I know it's not T, so I'm going to just choose T. Oh, hey, T, wrong. Try again or quit. I want to try again. Boink. Oh, hey, write something. We're back in the loop. Cool. What do we got? Honey. Let's make sure. Oh, hey, no. Try again. No, try again. All right? Let's try potato. Potato. That should be it. It should be. Oh, you gotta spell it right? Well, nope. So that must mean that it is quinoa. Oh, yep. You got it. Okay. If I run it again, and I'm just gonna run it just to press Q and make sure that it terminates, and then we can terminate the game. Okay, I'm gonna save it. Give everyone a chance, catch up, and to test out the game. Okay. Determine. I'm just gonna put some notes here. Keep doing that. Determine if user wants to continue. Okay, right? That's what that line's going to do. Okay. Capture user input again, right? It's kind of what the variable is like again. And then here, break the loop if user presses Q, right? They press Q, they're out. Otherwise, we'll continue the loop, right? So really the loop here isn't necessarily matching a condition like a while, right? Like a while loop is like, or a do while, it's like, do this while this is true, right? In here, we need to force ourselves to break out of the loop. So required when using loop, right? When using loop do, we need to force, I'm going to say force quit the loop, okay? And this can be done using break, okay? So we need to force our way out of it. We're not like monitoring a condition. So if we had some sort of variable that we could monitor, you know, like guessed is equal to false. And, you know, like while or guessed is equal to true if it was like a while loop. And while, you know, guessed is equal to true, just keep doing it. Or not guessed is equal to true, something that seems a bit more intuitive. Cool. Looks like we got 17. System clear. Yeah. Are you saying this? I mean, you can also do.
If you do like system clear at the beginning of your code, like on line 1 or whatever.
You mean up here?
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
So system clear.
System with clear in quotes.
Yeah, and then like when you're in your console and you actually run it, it gets rid of all this stuff in the.
Oh, I see. It gets rid of everything. Oh, that's kind of cool. Yeah. T. Try again. I'm gonna quit. I got it. Gets rid of everything else that was in. Sweet. Little tidbit. Is that something Matt showed yesterday, or is that something you just picked up?
No, I know other programs like Python and stuff have something like that, so I just looked it up real quick. I don't know if that's the one. It looks like there might be. It looks like you could do a puts clear. Maybe. There's some other things.
Okay. Wonder what came first, Python or Ruby? Which one came first? That'd be interesting because I know Python's really like exploding as a language. So we got 19. 19 so far. All right, we're looking at 20. Sweet. So what we're going to be doing also, so the lecture after this is going to be on objects in classes. And so the concept is we are going to be creating classes in order to, I don't know, you know, instantiate new instances of something, because that's kind of what we do, right? We create something to instantiate, or with Ruby, we can extend things, okay? So with this, I'm not going to go into this right now. I don't want to go into the extra because now we're going into the class, and the other lecture really delves piece by piece into what these things are. So I don't want to be like, oh, here's just this thing, and then, you know, try to explain this when the other lecture does a much better job of breaking the things down into smaller bits. And then when we get to this instance variable, we can then see it in action. Versus now, I don't know if it's going to make as much sense. So I'm not going to go into the extra part of this right now. We're going to jump into the other lecture. I just want to make sure that this works for everyone. At least everyone is, you know, working with this code. Is there any questions about this? Kind of basic Ruby stuff, you know, using dictionaries and arrays and doing a looping construct and, you know, breaking out of this. I'm sure you could convert this easily into JavaScript if need be, looking at some of that code, right? This would probably be something like prompt, right? We'd want to prompt them, or, you know, gets would be something like prompt, grab the input when they have a window and see what they're typing, okay? Awesome. So once again, I'm going to hold off on that extra stuff. What I want to do now is let me Slack out structure notes. Now, the naming conventions were off for these files. So that's going to be our first one, this objects and classes. That's the next lecture, our objects and classes lecture. So I'm going to do this too. I'm going to make it look nicer. This markdown. Here is Ruby objects classes lecture number 2. All right. So let me do this. I just edited the message, so I'm gonna edit that so it looks nice. As a theme format we always use, save changes, boom. All right. Just want to make sure when I look through, I'm looking for this syntax. Awesome. So we jump into this lecture. I'm going to create a new file. So I can touch on. I'm already in Atom. I'm just going to say classes.rb. You can do it via touch. You do it via here. It's all good. Okay. So Ruby is an object-oriented language. Okay. Now, if you were ever asked a question, you know, once again, most languages are object-oriented. Ones that I know, like Java, and Python. JavaScript is not object-oriented. Okay. There's things that are not real objects, primitive data types like numbers and strings, Booleans, null, undefined. Those are not objects per se. Sometimes they do act like it because they have like methods and properties methods kind of insinuate that something is an object, but they're not official like objects as they are in other languages like Ruby. So in Ruby with these objects / classes, right? Because we know like objects are kind of a primitive thing to what a class is. A class is something that we instantiate a new instance of something that comes with methods and properties versus an object, or in Ruby, a hash, right? It's really a hash in Ruby. So now everything, once again, right here, everything is an object, and there is a little caveat here, not quite. We can take a look at a deeper dive into it. So create the file if you haven't already created it. So let's just make sure everyone is create the classes RB file. Just make sure it's created. Give me a thumbs up. Somebody, sweet. And we'll start. Okay. It's pretty cool stuff. You know, I mean, you've been using learning about all these random methods, and that's great. You know, learning about all the functionality, what it can do. Teaching a new language at times requires going over all of these things that seem disconnected. Like, I don't know, I'm using this thing, and then I'm kind of jumping to this other thing, and like, how do I use them? You know, kind of like when we were doing the our demos this morning, the one thing that I would, you know, make pressing, and the next time we do it is come up with a a use case for it. Like, hey, you're learning this method. Why? When would you use it? Right? I mean, I think learning the things is great, but when you would use it is also super relative. Cool. 12 people only? Come on. Only creating a file. There you go. See, the number jumps up. I just think people are getting lazy. They don't want to click. First couple of things are really basic anyway, right? If we were to type in, hello world, right? We can then, because it's this string object, we can do uppercase, which is similar to like what you can do in JavaScript also, right? Let's save it. Once again, it's just going to display classes Ruby. Oh, it didn't because we didn't put it, right? Unless I p that, I won't see anything there. So let me run it again. There we go. We know what that does. Okay. Now I'm going to I'm just going to copy this, and then I'll change the method to be class. All right, cool. String. So you're a string class. I'm going to also comment out that. That's what was used to construct this piece of text. The minute we typed in text, Ruby's like, boop, that's a string class. It's got these methods. We can do these things with it, okay? And we know that a class is just this template for creating things, and then and some of the key words there, we instantiate new instances when we call a class. That's really the concept. We're creating the templates. This template then gets passed data, and then we instantiate a new thing based on that, right? Now, Ruby has these open classes, okay? Meaning that you can add to the classes that already exist, okay? We could also, in JavaScript, do something very similar to that. I'm not going to kind of point it out now, but we can extend the string class or the string prototype. Here, we're just going to extend in Ruby the string class itself, okay? Because everything is a class, okay? So we can write, we're going to work with this palindrome. A basic algorithm, by the end of this cohort, you should be able to walk out of here and be able to do certain algorithms in either or of these languages using certain variations of looping constructs and different methods, right? All right. So we can write our own isPalindrome method, and get this, it's attached to the string. So the string carries with it, wherever it goes, isPalindrome. All I have to do is say, string, are you a palindrome? That's really all we have to do. So it's kind of a cool thing. Instead of having separate functions, I attach a function to the string class, and I extend this particular class. This string class is kind of an open class. It allows me to extend it, okay? So let's do this. So we have a pRadar. That's a palindrome. Always looking for new palindrome words. Reverse is equal to radar, right? Let's see what the output of that is. I don't think we need the, P world class. I'm going to comment that out, okay? Let's just take a look at that. Boom. Okay. Make sure you get that, and let's see what happens. Okay, true, right? So this is an evaluation. We're doing an evaluation, and it's returning a Boolean true, or, if it wasn't true, if it was radar 1, boop, then we would get a false, right? Cool. So it is true. That is a palindrome. Awesome. So if we were to also do something like puts here, instead of doing puts radar, I'm just going to copy that, comment that out. And let's do radar uppercase, right? Here we go, dot to uppercase, dot reverse, radar, dot uppercase. Once again, we're trying to standardize. I kind of tend to go downcase instead of uppercase. I don't know why. Let's take a look and see, hey, true again, right? Cool. Give that a shot. Make sure that they work. Test it out. Here's the Joe emoji. I'm back. I think you all should make your own emojis. Or Jeremy, you should make an emoji since you made that for me. To make an emoji for everyone. Is it a lot of work? How didn't really take that much work, Jeremy, right?
It's pretty quick.
Yeah, there you go. We'll take volunteers. Somebody can volunteer and be like, I'll make emojis.
Just think, though, Joe, if everyone makes their own emoji and uses their emoji, think about all the counting you're going to have to do.
No, then I would standardize. Then I'd be like, all right, enough people. One thumbs up and that's it from this point on. When things get carried away from me to understand what's going on, that's when I cap it. I can pull in the reins anytime I want. Sweet. All right. So we got that. Just wanted to test. We wanted to see if that works. Now, what we're going to do is extend the string class. So I'm going to say class string, and I'm going to end it. So anytime you begin like these looping constructs or if else, like create the structure first. So you're never like, oh, I forgot to close it. Okay. Now what we're going to do is create a method. I'm going to say def is underscore palindrome word. Okay. I'm going to, not world, I'm just trying to interpret things. Word, end. Okay. So there's my structure. So def is palindrome. That is a method. Right. And in Ruby, we use methods. We don't use functions. Okay. And once again, a method, since everything is an object, a function attached to an object would have been a method in JavaScript, but we write methods in Ruby anyway. So what we're saying is, this method is going to take in a parameter, word, right? And then we're going to do word dot uppercase dot reverse is equal to word dot uppercase. Okay. So what should happen here is if we call it, if I say borscht that is palindrome question mark. Let's see what happens. Now, I'm going to get an error. Let's see. Ruby classes, boom. Okay, wrong number of arguments, right? We didn't give it an argument. This is palindrome, is a method, okay? So here, for everyone, it's kind of caught up with that. So what we can see here is that we created this method, right? So this is palindrome. Palindrome is a method, right? Just going to make sure that, okay. And class is wrong. Traceback, just making sure I can leave comments also, because in JavaScript classes, you just can't leave comments anywhere you want. Okay, it breaks the code. So is a method, right? Which takes in a word, right? And I suppose if we were writing a method, like writing a normal method that checks for palindrome, hey, we'd want to take an input, right? I mean, that makes sense. We'd want to take input. Okay, so that means if I give this thing input and I say borscht, right? I give it input, I shouldn't see that error, right? So I'm going to clear out one false, right? Okay. What was that? System clear. I'm going to do what Jeremy said. System clear. Sweet. So it came back false. All right. So what if we were to test this on something we definitely know? And we know that borscht. So let's try this again too. So here, I'm just going to copy this. I want to see what happens if I copy this and I change this input to radar. Okay. So I'm going to change this to radar. And what's the expectation here? Do we think that that's going to return true?
No.
Okay, so let me do this. Poll. Will it return true or false? Now don't type it out yet. I know people are probably like, I'm just going to type it and then I'll know. Sure, you'll know. Boom. So tell me, do you think it's going to return true or false? For the radar one. I'm already getting yes and no's. That knows. That's good. Once again, sometimes on the interviews, they will ask you to look at something and you won't be able to type anything. You have to walk them through what you think the output is, what you think it's going to be. All right, we have a bunch of no's. Awesome. Cool. Only 6 people. Don't be afraid. Just us. We're like friends here. Get it right, you get it wrong. Doesn't matter. Sometimes getting it wrong helps you remember it the next time. Because, you know, the fact of getting it wrong kind of hurts sometimes. All right. So it looks like pretty balanced set here, right? You know, more on the no's than on the yeses. Okay. All right. Here it is. Boom. False and true. What? So, how about this? Someone who said no. Explain your logic. Maybe Jake, explain why you thought it would be no. Just curious. What about the construct insinuated it?
I mean, I was kind of confused of what the question was asking, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Like, I wasn't sure if like yes meant true or no meant false or something, or I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, he's like, I want to change my answer. I don't know, John. Why did you think? I know Aaron's just about to talk. But John, why did you think it would be false?
Because I ran the code with Borscht.
Okay, but when we put radar here,
I knew that would be true. I wasn't sure what the
okay. So once again, this goes back to just earlier when I said I ask a question, maybe my directions aren't clear enough that, you know, there's the confusion here. So for it being true, so if you thought it was going to be true, right? You said you ran it and it was true. Why is it true? Why did it come back as true?
for radar.
Yeah.
Because it's a palindrome.
Okay.
Wait.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. It's a palindrome, and this is it. Now, here's the thing. Here's what we're trying to do, though. Like, we added this method. And you know, like the method itself, the method at this point in time is associated with the string, but it's kind of its independent thing, right? It's like, hey, you can call me, pass me anything, and I'll tell you. Like, I don't care what string I'm attached to. You can pass me any word, and I'll tell you if that word is a palindrome. The ultimate goal of what we're trying to achieve here is to have the initial word, this word, be able to see if it itself is a palindrome. Not necessarily pass in a word to do that. Like, I want the word itself to know that it is a palindrome or not. Okay? It's just extra work, right? Is this not extra work to write the palindrome and then, you know, pass in something else? That's extra work for us. So it's just a string, then just type in a string and do his palindrome. And then you don't need this extended, like, passing in argument. So we can do that using something called, and it's very similar to, in JavaScript, the this keyword. In Ruby, it's not this. We call it self. So if I replace word with self here, and I get rid of word here, and I say self, I no longer need to pass in anything. Okay, so down here, I'm going to get rid of these arguments. What they were arguments, right? So I'm going to get rid of all those arguments. Okay, type that out so you have it. And we'll test it out. Give it a nice little test run here. And false. Oh, because I didn't change this to be radar. So change this to be radar. Sorry about that. And then we get false, true. Okay? I'm going to edit this. I'm just going to put radar so we know. Boom, boom. So what we're saying here is, hey, if the method is attached to the class, then the class knows what its value is, right? That's kind of what we're saying here. If the class has a method, then we can pass into the method the value of the class, right? Whatever that class is, the string value, we can pass it in. And we're passing in using this idea of self, okay? Now, I've seen self outside of Ruby in the world of JavaScript. There were times when, because of scoping in JavaScript, I wanted to hold on to the concept of this at a higher scope and reference it. But if I'm in a function and I say this, well, then I'm in the scope of the function, so this is pertinent to the function. But if I was outside of the function and the parent function itself, say, was referencing this, then how would I reference the this up there when I'm also a this right here, right? So sometimes in the world of JavaScript, they would have done something like, self, I just did a self is equal to this in JavaScript. That is a concept where you can like capture the scope of this and store it as a variable so I can reference that scope of that thing in a child scope. Okay, so I just bring it up because they always seem some similarities between, what Ruby has, what JavaScript is, and then a lot of the code or when I'm doing research and I see this. And this is not the first time I've seen like this. Sometimes it's that is equal to this, like that is equal to this in JavaScript. That's also another construct. Sometimes it's self, sometimes it's that. So what we've ultimately done here is given this method to this class, and now it can follow it around. This is much more terse code, right? And this is how it should be. We should be able to do this. Pass in the value. I already know what I am. Why should you pass in something or pass in the same thing that I am? Doesn't really make sense. Okay. You can make another palindrome method also that accepted input. Maybe is palindrome accept input or something like that. If you wanted to extend the functionality of the class to be more diverse and be able to do that. But as of right now, this is enough for us. Okay. Does that make sense? Like what we're trying to do with self? All right. So how about this? Matthew, explain to me what self is. What are we doing with self then?
Self is just, it's the this of Ruby. It's referencing whatever it is you're passing in, and it has global scope.
There you go. Sweet. Easy enough, right? Just want to make sure. Pretty cool that we have access to that. Awesome. Okay, it's 3:30, so why don't we take we'll take our break, come back, and then we'll delve much, much further into the classes.
Hey, Joe.
Yeah, sure.
Little random question. Does self need to be there?
Yeah.
Because for some reason I don't know if it's maybe something I installed, my Atom takes them off when I put them in, and it saves it and it runs it and it still comes up the same.
No, I can try running it. I don't. Maybe you did. Maybe. I don't know. Let me take a look. I don't want to say no. Oh, and it still works.
Yeah, like it totally threw me off because I keep typing it, and then when I save it, it totally just erases them.
As far as I know, we need it, but once again, maybe Adam is doing it. If we were in another script editor, maybe it wouldn't process it, but I'm not really sure. I know self needs to be there, but apparently,
I was just
Doesn't
curious if it was something I was doing.
yeah, I'd have to take a look and see, can self be replaced with something else? Maybe, maybe the browser, the editor does have that functionality.
Okay, thanks.
All right, yeah. So let me stop my share. So 340, we're coming back at 340. Break time, come back at 340. Boink. All right. Come on back. Sweet. So we're extending or creating this method. We're kind of attaching it. Now, I did mention that JavaScript had something similar to that. I don't really want to go into depth. I just kind of want to like, here, expose it and kind of get right back. I don't want to, but in our algorithms, there is under the hard, there's this repeatify one. And in JavaScript, there's a thing called prototype. And so a thing has a prototype, like a mold. And I can extend its prototype with whatever I want, property or method. And in here, it's this repeatify method. And as you can see right here, kind of does the same thing. You know, a string has attached to it a method. Here we're just putting in the number 3, but it could have been just as easy as saying is palindrome. So this thing could have been is palindrome. And it extends it, and it repeats the word 3 times. And it uses this as the context versus Ruby, which uses self as its context. Okay? So once again, you can take a look at that later. Just kind of wanted to show you that JavaScript also has this functionality where you can take the string prototype. The string, it's almost hard to say it's not a class because it looks just like a class in JavaScript. But we're doing the same thing. It's the same concept. That's what we're trying to do. And you can, go into a deeper dive into self with Ruby if you want. So if we ever wondered how this string can take in a method, it's because a string is secretly an object with methods, right? Kind of secretly, a string in JavaScript is this thing that has methods. Almost anything that has a method is an object. That's how I see it as. And an object is really just an instance of a class, okay? So from one class, you can make many other objects with the same methods. We're going to do that. So we extended the string method, right? The pre-default string method. We extended it. We gave it some additional functionality, and that was great. Now we're going to create our own object. So I'm just going to comment out those two previous ones because we're not gonna really be using that. I just want to kind of get rid of that. Move it up. Here we go. Sweet. Want to see a lot of that. So now we're going to create another class. We're going to do some things here. So I'm going to say class world. Okay. Now, once again, anytime I create something, I give it an end. Create the structure. Class world end. I'm going to give it a method name. Okay. I'm going to say ends. Now I can go into it and say nothing. I don't know who comes up with this stuff. Nothing but shrimp. Okay. I don't come up with the naming conventions. Oh, this is funny. Teaching. Oh, I don't know why I did that. Teaching other, lectures from other instructors. Sometimes you see these little nuances. They put them in there for context, like for something. Not really sure, but it is fun to see it. When I see the instructor, I'll be like, hey, I was teaching that. Nothing but shrimp. What was that? What was the context of that? So I'm going to create a new variable. World is equal to, world1 is equal to world dot new. Okay? So let's do this. I just want to make sure everyone's caught up to creating this thing. And so this world.new, right, is similar to JavaScript. It almost just defaults. I default to go back to compare it to the one thing that you already understand, right? You have context. You understand things in JavaScript. And we would have in JavaScript done something like new world, right? So, in JS, it would be new world, right? The keyword new goes before the class that we're instantiating, right? But in Ruby, it's world.new, right? So it becomes a method attached to the class itself, just the way that it is. It's one of those things. I don't know why they designed it that way. Just did. Cool. We got 11. So now we want to kind of test this, right? I have this world class. I gave it this method called name. If I call name, I should get nothing but shrimp, right? That's our theory, right? So I instantiated it. P dot world1 dot name. And I'm also just, since I'm here, I'll just do P world1 dot class. And let's see what we get. Okay. I'm gonna go here. Run it. Boom. I get nothing but shrimp. Okay. So I get nothing but shrimp and world because it's a class. Okay. Now, if I was to output, I'm just going to output world1. Also, I forgot to output world1 there. Just output the class itself, right? Instantiating a new class. World1 is just an instantiation of this thing. If I output it now, I'm going to get this crazy looking, GUID of something. So I'm going to assume that that's its space and memory or its object ID. Matt was doing that yesterday. Once again, I don't know. I don't use that kind of as a practical use case. Like, I don't know. When would I use that? I'm not really sure when I would use that. But if you output the class, you're going to get this value back. Okay. Which, once again, I think it's the object ID. Or I thought yesterday was demoing it. It was like .object _ ID, something like that. So we get the name, nothing but shrimp, and then we get the class. And then once again, it's kind of its object ID. Okay? Cool. All right. So I want to update things, right? I want my method for this class to be pretty dynamic. Really what I want. And so what if we tried to do something like, and I'm just going to maybe comment these out. All right. And let's do this. let's say world1.name is equal to Tatooine. Awesome. And then I'm just going to cut that, put it under here so we can see what it is. All right, let's see if we were able to change the name. Every time I save it, it just goes to the last line. All right, here we go. Ready? Did you mean name? Undefined method. It's not taking it, right? It's like undefined method name is equal. It's like this thing hasn't been configured to take anything in the first place, right? I mean, we did see earlier when we did his palindrome, we put word here, right? And we could pass something into it. We're just, in essence, what we're trying to say is like this variable is equal to this thing. That's not how we kind of said it before. So what we're going to need to do is this. We need to create, so we can make an initialize method, okay, in our class that's going to automatically run when we instantiate a new instance. The two kind of go hand in hand. The naming conventions were specifically chosen for that, right? Instantiate a new object, initialize method. Now, this initialize method is very similar to a JavaScript constructor. Remember what a JavaScript constructor did. Initialize. Let me just put this here. We'll create this and then say name is equal to nothing but shrimp, right? So I'm going to cut this out here. I'm going to put it in here, and then I'm going to reference this name here. Okay. So in JavaScript, we had the constructor, and the constructor allowed us to pass things in, right, to the constructor, to the class, and then it would do some binding, right? Like this dot name was equal to whatever was passed in. In the world of JavaScript, that's what we did, right? Constructor allowed us to pass things in. So this initialize method kind of allows us to do that too. But we also need another method here to kind of reference it, to call it. There's two ways to do this, by the way. In just a minute, we're going to also set some other global things up here that will replace this def name at name, okay? So in a moment, we're going to be setting some setters and getters, the concept of getting and setting something, okay? It's a common practice in classes or in objects. Even JavaScript objects have a get and a set method by default. Well, you type get and set, but they're kind of ingrained into the construct of it in JavaScript. So just bear with me that the way this is constructed is going to allow us to start trying to pass things out. Okay, well, let's pass things out. So I have my name, Tatooine. Are we going to do this? We're instantiating a new world. We're going to say world.name, right? All right, let's see what happens. P world.name. Let's see if this works. Does it work? Okay, did you mean name? So once again, still erroring, unless I didn't save it. Did I not save it? I don't think I saved it. There we go. Nope. Unidentified method name. Oh, okay. Still not working. Still not allowing us to get this working. Won't allow us to do this as of yet. Okay, so we still have to do one more thing. Okay, and that other thing here, and it just, at this moment, creating it this way seems kind of a convoluted way of doing it. Much more work than we need to. But once again, these are the baby steps to take us to the next thing as to why doing the getters and setters is the more efficient approach here. So I'm going to say def name is equal to value. I'm going to end it like I should, always end it. And then I'm going to say at name is equal to value. All right, so there's a lot of these instance variables like, hey, all I want to do is update name, and I got to create all this additional stuff to get it done. So what we need to do here is like, here's our instance variable. We are going to kind of call that instance variable, right? So anytime we call name, calls the instance variable. Anytime we call this name here, we can pass it a value that will update it, and then we call this. It's kind of like a what, why, that kind of thing, right? It's a little kind of mind puzzling right here. But let's say we did. Let me get rid of these two so I just have them all kind of nested together. Take a look at this. Let's run it. There we go. We're able to update the thing. So here, let me just slide this out. And we just want everyone to catch up. Yeah. 17.
Hey, Joe, mine keeps erroring out.
Okay.
And
You want to
saying
share?
that def name equals value is the, yeah, I'll share. Hang on.
Okay, yeah. Let's share. Let's figure it out.
Keep saying it.
You can't
Yeah.
have spaces
Oh, yeah.
after the equal, like after
Right here?
yeah, take those out and then it should work. I did the same thing.
I was just about to say, you were so on point with it, Iris. I'm like, you
Okay.
must have just done that. Awesome.
So that's weird. Okay.
Yeah, just the way that it is. Like, once again, it's hard sometimes to say why that's the case. You know, it just is. Just learning how to use the language doesn't mean like having to explain why they constructed it. There's times I teach stuff and they're like, well, why they do it that way? And I'm like, I don't know why they did it that way. You know, I don't know why they said get element by ID instead of just creating something much shorter like get ID. Like, I don't know why they did that. Somebody decided that that's the way it was going to be. And that's the way it was. Awesome. Everyone else good? Sweet, 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 sweet. All right. So once again, I mentioned that this is kind of a longer way of doing it. It's kind of like we're baby stepping our way up through things. So it's almost like, hey, if we're in JavaScript, we'd be like, hey, we're going to create this object, and then we're going to create this class. Like, oh, and these are the reasons why we're creating a class instead of object, and the kind of limitations, right? So let's talk about the behavior. So let's make it so that the worlds we make will do something. So we're gonna add a method here also. So we're gonna kind of extend it a little bit more. We're gonna go with this whole creating the additional methods to support this, and then we'll introduce what we want. So what's our specs here? What are we trying to do? Okay. A world can have many people, but starts with none. Okay. Which means we're going to have to initialize an empty array or an empty dictionaries, something, right? I want it to not have anything, but I want it to hold multiple things. Boom, that's an array in my head. Cool. The world can populate itself with one person at a time. My head's already saying there's got to be a method that allows me to give it a value that pushes it into the array, right? And just kind of understand what's happening. A person has properties named string, age, integer. For now, we're going to make a default person. Later, we'll upgrade the method. Okay, sounds like an object to describe someone, right? And then make a method populate that will push the hash or the object, right, into the people array. Okay, seems pretty intuitive, like what we're trying to do. We're trying to create an array, pass in the person, and that person gets pushed into the array. Seems pretty intuitive. Let's see if we can do this. So what we want to do now is here, because we're creating this placeholder to be leveraged later on, we need to create an instance variable called people, right? People just going to be an empty array. Okay, awesome. Now we knew when we ever wanted to call name, right? When we wanted to call this name, we kind of needed this, we needed a support. If we ever wanted to call name, we needed something to kind of support that, right? So same thing. So I'm going to create def people and then I use this to reference people. And so this is supporting the fact that we have a new instance variable. Okay. And then we're going to create that method called populate. Okay. And we're going to take people, which is an array, and right? We had that. Who did that? That was that Lauren. Lauren, you worked on that method this morning, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Actually, that's appending.
Right. It's going to append, right? It's like a push, and you were like, I don't know, we got push and we got append, right? It's all the same thing, right? We're going to create this hash here. There's two ways to create hashes, right? There was the whole that or kind of the old way of doing it. I'm just going to follow what's in here. Uppercase. Shrimp. Nick. Shrimpski. All right. Age 20. I didn't make this stuff up. It is kind of humorous. Shrimp. Nick Shrimpy. Gosh. Okay. So once again, we're kind of solidifying the concepts of the need to creating an instance variable at this moment requires a supporting method to kind of pull it, which is like a getter. So in essence, these are acting kind of like getters as of right now. They're getting those values, right? This is acting like a setter. This is acting like a setter. So in essence, really, let me just put a note here that this is a getter. Now it's a getter. And you'll see it in just a moment. This is a setter. You'll see exactly why I'm calling these things specifically, because later on when we kind of upgrade this a little bit, you'll see that there'll be an attribute setter and an attribute getter. Okay, so awesome. So we have this. Let's go down. Let's take a look. Right, so I got new world, world.people. So I don't think we need to play around with the new Tatooine. We don't really need that right now. So I'm going to push that down. And we'll just say, p world1.people. Let's see what we got. People. Just want to make sure it works. Like I didn't break anything. Did I? Nil. All right, because there's nothing in there. It's an empty array. We haven't really done anything. So if we do world1.populate, right? I'm just going to run it one time. Let's make sure it works, right? Oh, here we go. Class is undefined method. So it's not, what did I type in here? Did I do something wrong? I should have put it in there. So I must have something incorrect here. World1, we did. World populate. Right? I'm doing this correctly. Let me see what I'm saying here. Traceback, once we're going to call classes from main populate. Undefined method. Nil for nil class. I'm almost feeling like, did I misname people? No, people. People, right? Did I not save it? Maybe I did not save it. No, still getting the same method. I'm going to guess, is everyone else getting this method? The error? They're working for anyone. It's just me. Not working? Same error? Okay. So let me see what's happening here. It's funny too. I'm curious if it is maybe a change that they made, the new version of Ruby. I think when the last time I taught this, it might have been just an older version of Ruby, because I know the instructor went through this same process, and everything worked. So now just going to take a look and see, right? It's populate that's causing the issue. So if we
Joe, I'm not having an error.
you're not getting an error.
Mm-mm.
So don't you need to call Pete? You need to repeat line 51 after you populate?
Well, if we populate, we can do that, but I think I'm gonna try that. My assumption is this: this is tripping something out, and that if I call that afterwards, I still think that that's gonna error. But once again, let me try. See, mine's tripping out, so this causes the error, which means this isn't working as I expect. That's really what it means. So I'm trying to take a look here to see if there's something like, I'm going to take this specifically as it's written, right? Just to kind of get rid of any possible errors, and it still errors out for me, right? So I save it, still errors out. It's this thing right here. So I wonder if, undefined method. So I don't think it can recognize this. So I'm just curious. What if I try push? Maybe it doesn't see it. If it says that it's an undefined method again, then it doesn't see that this is an array. That's really what's happening. Okay? Yeah. Same thing. Undefined method push for nil class. It's not seeing, at least from my side, that people is an array. So I'm just going to kind of reverse this back to what it was. That's how I can tell. Like if you run another method and you get the same error, undefined method push, then it doesn't know that the thing that you're trying to use push on, that doesn't have a method for a nil class. So it's not seeing this thing as that. And I'm just curious why it's not.
When you print dot people, it should give you an empty array, right? So it's not even doing that.
Yeah, so if I did this, originally when we did do it, look, it says nil for me.
Yeah, on mine, it gives me an empty array.
Me too.
Okay.
I'm getting an empty array.
You're getting an empty array, yeah. So
Yeah, empty array.
let me see. Did I type something wrong here? It's just weird, right? You're getting an empty array, and I'm going to put something inside this array. Just the number one. I want to see if I put something in, can I reference it? No. So this is not referencing this array. It's not getting this thing. So what I'm going to do, once again, just for testing purposes, everything that's there.
Hey, Joe, I think you might have initialized spelled wrong. Is that?
Oh, that was it. It was working with name, though, before. All right. There we go. Good looking out. It's really weird, though. I mean, I was walking through the process as I would troubleshoot. Once again, determine if this is, we know that it's not seeing it, right? So the fact that if I did copy and paste this, it would have worked, then I could have gone back and been like, all right, let me take a look. Because I know that it was working for name before, so I just find it odd that it would have worked for that, unless I went in here by accident and maybe deleted something. But from what I pasted inside of, in the Slack room, I left out the I. But here, let me put this in. Cool. And then I'm just, once again, now that we're here, let's make sure that it works. Okay, sweet. And then if I do populate a few times, 2, 3, we should see 3 things in there, 3 objects. Cool. All right, so just make sure, give me a thumbs up, make sure that it's all good. Getters and setters. $12. Okay, we're up to 16. Good. Sweet. Looks pretty good. All right. So what we're going to do now is provide data to the new object. So we have our initialize method spelled correctly this time around. This time we don't want to hard code this, right? We're producing these worlds, and the worlds are going to have shapes and names, right? And we don't want to hard code the name in here, nothing but trip. We want to be able to allow our world to take in a new name, right? Okay, now we can easily create as many worlds as we want. So I'm going to copy and paste this. I'm not going to type all that out here. And then I am going to test them out. Let's just make sure that they all work as we expect. What is this? Ruby classes main new. So let me see what I did. World one. Oh, because I have world up here. See, I have world one already created. So I'm going to comment out all of that code. That's what I'm guessing it is. Wrong number of arguments. No. Okay. Initialize wrong number of arguments. Mean new. Okay. So let me take a look. We gave this is equal to name, right? And let me get rid of all this for right now. I'll say world one is equal to new one. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to comment out and just test that at least one of them works. If one is broken, then they're all broken, right? So this tells me that they're all broken. Okay. All worlds will start to make out the same. What if we want to start a different world? We can provide input to the initialize method. Oh, here we go. I didn't do this. Name. Like the constructor, we need to pass in the variables. Okay, so like a JS constructor, we need to pass in a value, right? This is a method in the end, but it is a special type of method, a constructor method. That's what was causing it. There we go. Awesome. I'll go back here. I'll do this. Okay. And that's our method right here. So let me slack that out. Okay. I run it. Boom. Oh, I didn't save it. That's probably wrong. All right. So now I have all of the names of the planets. I don't know why nothing but shrimp is a world, but there's a world in somebody's world. Okay. So we can say that the initialize method acts like a constructor, right? So I'm going to say the initialize method is like a constructor. And we need to pass in a value. Okay, if we want to do any sort of data binding. Okay. And so that's what we did. Now, we're going to do it again. So I have name is equal to name, people, right? That's there. I want to pass in something called shape, the shape of our world, right? If I pass in shape, I'm going to put a comma right here to say it's a second argument to the initialize method. And then I'm going to say shape is equal to shape. Okay, easy enough. Right, just placeholders. In JavaScript, this would have been, you know, this dot shape was equal to shape. That's how that would have been in JavaScript. So in JS, it would be that. Once again, lots of similarities here. Okay. So now that means we can pass in an additional value. So over here, right, we're passing in additional shapes. We're giving additional parameters. So I'm just going to copy and paste that for now, just to test it. So let me do this. Slack this out. You have it. And then slack out the new world so you can test them so you don't have to type it all out. Let's make sure that that works. What happened here? What did I do? Oh, because we didn't. We're passing in something. No, hold on one second, right? Number of arguments. Oh, this is going to trip it up. Let me see. Is that going to trip it up? Zoom in, undefined local variable method world 1. Oh, because I never created it. I just want to see if that's tripping it up. Yeah. So what happens is this. We didn't pass in something for this, and so it's going to break our code, right? So I need to pass in. If I'm going to do this, now it's required because we have 2 parameters and it wants to set this, right? I'm just curious. If I did comment that out and just say I'm going to pass in something, but I'm not going to do with it anything with it, would it error out? Let's just say it still errors out, right? So I'm trying to pass something in, doesn't really know what to do with it, where to go with it, so trips it up. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to say sphere, right? And spell it. Oh, extra quotes. Yeah, put the quote here too, right? All right. Looks good? Looks good. Let's test it. Awesome. So now everything works. Okay? That's what we want to do. Just add a new value there, and it will create it for us. Okay? So Ruby is kind of strict. Like, hey, you put something there, we got to do something with it. Just can't put things there and then not use them. Cool. We're good so far? Everyone good? Any issues? Any troubleshooting? Sweet. All right. Let's keep going then. So now we want to access the shape property. And this is where I mentioned before, like these getters and setters, right? I specifically mentioned them as getters and setters here, but here in the world of Ruby, these methods or these things are called, well, they are getters and setters. They're just kind of semantically named attribute readers, attribute writers. Okay. And so let's see if we can add to the very top of our code right here. I'm going to go here and say attr underscore reader shape, right? And we know that this is what? When you do colon something, that's a symbol, okay? So we're putting that shorthand up there for a reader, and we are going to give it a writer also, writer of shape, okay? Because remember, when we had to do it earlier, we had to do all of this, right? All this construct here, getting and setting. We don't have anything in here that references shape at all, right? Nothing yet. There's nothing in here that's a shape method. We have name and a people, name and a peep method, and then supporting methods that change those things. But we don't have a shape in there, okay? Now, we could, once again, you know, I want to test this out. There's a way to consolidate these two as well, make it even a bit more efficient. So, you know, we were getting the names earlier. So what if I get the shape? So I got here shape. I'm just gonna maybe console log a few of those out just so I can put shape. Let's see if shape returns anything. Look, sphere. Oh wow, sphere. I didn't have to go out of my way to create this, to create that, right? I was able to actually get the value without all of this. Okay, so these getters and setters, these readers and writers, allow us to do that. Okay, so give that a test. Okay, test that you can get it. I'm going to test that I can like maybe reset it. Can I say shape is equal to box? Just want to test it and see. And then get rid of this puts here. Let me just test it. Let's see if that works. Maybe we have to do some bit more. No, look, works. So my getter and setter actually works, which is pretty sweet. The fact that I don't need to do all of this stuff. It's kind of the, you know, learning all the nuances of Ruby requires kind of learning how to set it up like this and then kind of upgrading it to a much terser version. Just make sure everyone's kind of caught up. Like that.
Okay, Joe. I don't know. Mine is all over the place.
So, all right. You want to share your screen? Take a look. Okay. All right, so I already see on line 57, you are not passing in a second parameter. See how world 2, 3, and 4 are passing in a second thing, right? The shape, you're not passing in a shape, and I errored out there. So just put sphere there. Yeah. All right. Let's test it out. Let's see. Now, you're also changing things, too. I mean, you went out of your way to, like, update things that we didn't do, right? You put attribute writer there. You haven't gotten up to any of that. So I don't know what's happening. I just see nil, 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 world.name. So you're trying to print out world.name, and it's not printing it out because you made a bunch of changes on line, like 35, 38, 41, right? So you can see why you can print out the shape and the shape works, but these other things aren't working.
I was muted. Sorry, Joe. I didn't even realize. I was trying to talk to you and I was totally muted. No, I did not do that. I realized what the problem was. The same thing as with that self thing.
Yeah.
I installed a Rubocop, which I did not know 100% what it does. I know what some of it does. Apparently, it automatically changes stuff it finds like a better way to do.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
So when you save it, it just changes everything.
Got it. So I would turn that thing off then for right now.
Yeah,
for the sake of like,
kind of got that.
like, Aaron, I don't know what the hell you're doing, man.
I swear I'm not trying to like go ahead of you or anything.
I'm even like, I don't know. Is that even in the lecture? Where is that? That's kind of crazy.
It's not. My computer took a mind of its own after I installed that.
That's it. All right. I can only help so far. You know, I'm sure if we banged our heads, we could figure out the solution the way that thing is doing it. But I'm going to stick to this more meticulous approach here. Okay. So just copy and paste what I put in the Slack channel. Here, I'll put this whole thing again, just so that you're not out of complete loss. I don't want you typing everything out, because that'll just take forever. Okay. So we're going to create methods. So now, so here we go. So we didn't wrap these two up. So these two right now can be wrapped up. I'm just going to comment them out. More efficient way of doing the above. So I'm going to say more efficient way of doing the above is to do a attribute accessor shape. Okay. So that keyword there is kind of like, hey, I'll do both. And this is shape. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to just test this out. Make sure this thing works. Boom. Look, box. Because I renamed the box, it works. Okay. Cool. So once again, before, I'll do world.shape before, world.shape after, and we should see it was sphere and now it's box. Okay. So one subtle change was this. I'm going to comment that out, put that in there. Oh, I didn't add the ending. Oh, there we go. Okay. Give that a shot.
Okay, so this attribute accessor is doing the exact same thing that the reader and writer did.
Yes.
And those readers and writers did the exact same thing that all the initialized thing for the name and people did, right?
Correct.
Okay. So whenever we go in to write this stuff, just forget the 30 lines of code that we wrote and just do attribute accessors, right?
Correct.
Okay. Just making sure. It seems like a really long way to get there.
when we teach the material, there's always the concept of like teaching, and I'm not going to say all the ways of doing something, but teaching the things that you are going to see. You know, you may look at somebody's Ruby code and they wrote it like this, right? And if you see it like this and you're like, I don't know, I'm only used to using the attribute accessor. I don't know why they're doing it like that. What's the need to do that? Right? And so you'll see it and you'll be like, oh, now I know. If I ever see that being done, the person opted not to do this, right? And then we just have to find the use cases of when they would opt not to do something like that, right? Maybe, you know, I can see when you may not want to use the attribute accessor to roll up both of those because sometimes I only want to read a property. I don't want to write to it. So this isn't always used because there are times when I just want to read something. I don't want to give person access to write to it, right? Something like maybe the object ID of this thing. Like if it was something in a database, I don't want you to change the ID. The ID should be untouchable, but it should be readable, right? So I wouldn't want to do attribute accessor object ID because then you could change it, correct? So that's one of the reasons, you know, kind of going this long way of doing it. So you understand and you can see, okay? So now, what we are, once again, now that you kind of seen it, you worked with it, now we can do that with, we can clearly differentiate just what I was saying. If we just want to read things, then we can do something like, well, here we go. What did I say? Name and age? Oh, okay, we're up here. I was jumping down here. Okay, so for the populate, let's go back to the populate here. I want to be able to add, create the person. So when I do create it, this is hard code. You know, name, Shrimpsky, and the age. And I want the user to be able to like put in the people's name and their age, right? That's what we want. We want them. Populate has the method. So this should work perfectly fine, right? We're passing in methods. And so if we go down here, I mean, here it's telling us the sphere, right? And we're passing in two properties here. But we're going to go to populate, right? So that's creating it. Is world.shape, seeing the shape. So I'm not going to change the shape anymore. I'm just going to kind of get rid of some of that code. So getting too much code here. I'm going to copy this. Let's copy this. I'll paste this out right now. I'm just going to make sure it runs. Let's make sure there's no errors. It works. So let me paste what we did here, this method. Okay. And then this is what we're extending. That's your test right there. Okay. So for world 3, we're populating that array with those names and ages. Okay. So just give me a thumbs up when you've done that and you've tested. And then, cool. Looks good. It's good. Now 12. Everyone's good, right? No one's got any major errors or anything. Awesome. Cool. So let's do this. It's 4:28. Why don't we take a 10-minute break? We'll come up back and we'll finish the lecture. Come back at 4:38. Break time. Come back at 4:38. Boink. Right there. Sweet. Ooh.
Hey, Joe, I figured it out.
To turn the thing off?
No, that part I don't know, but I got it to actually work.
Okay.
I don't know how to uninstall it or turn it off. I looked. I can't figure that part out.
I think in Atom, if you go up to like Atom preferences, where do we go here? Key binding packages. I think here you can turn them off. Yeah.
Well, that's the whole thing. It's not in there. It was something I installed on my actual terminal.
Oh, yeah.
It's called RuboCop. It's like a formatting thing. It was originally what I read was it was like to help with indentation and like improper stuff. It works for everything. It just also jumps to the next step and is like, oh, that's not what you need there. This is what you need there.
So Google uninstall.
I tried that.
BubbleCup. Get rid of BubbleCup. All right.
I don't know. It works though. I'm getting the same results. It just is written differently. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm at a loss.
This is what it is. You can only
it's my own
fault. Yes, I'm gonna let you take full blame for that one. All right. So let's now roll up some of these methods that, you know, I think Thad made a point. We're like, so we don't need these things anymore. And we don't. So we can roll this stuff up, right? And so if we just wanted to have a reader for people to get people, right? So then we could say here, ATR underscore reader for people, right? So we could read from the people, and the accessor can have name and shape, name, comma, shape, right? So let's get that. All right. And what that's going to do, it's going to segment. It's going to say, hey, people you can read from, but name and shape you can read and write from. And what we're going to wind up doing also, oh, let's just wait. Everyone, take a moment, catch up. Readers, writers, and accessors. Oof. Just wait till the next language you pick up, whatever that language is, whether it's Python or Java, you're going to start to see like a combination of the two previous languages and then some new stuff. And then you're like, wow, I understand what that's doing. You know, you'll see it. Maybe you wouldn't know how to have written it based on the language, but you'll see it and you'll be like, oh, that's looking like exactly like what it does over here. Bet you it's doing the same thing. So you can't pick up. I know Matt mentioned like having to teach not the iOS class because he didn't know Java, I think, or Swift or whatever it was. Forgot what the language he was using, but he was able to step into the class and like teach some other relevant material. But when he looked at the language and they were explaining it to him, maybe it was Java, the IAs, he was like, oh man, that makes perfect sense. Like you could pick it up. It is great. Like, and knowing how to research things and figure things out, it's a great advantage too. Cool. So we're good. So I have these two, and for the definitionalize, we're going to give shape. Once again, no spaces. An oblate spheroid. Oh my God, this is going to be a crazy name, right? We have name, shape, and people. So we're taking a default here for it. And then we don't need all of these. The name, the people, and the name can go bye-bye. We don't really need those anymore. This is our terse section here, right here. So I'm going to actually get, you know, I'm just going to dump these. All right? My guess is this. You're not going to write the other way, right? Chances are you're like, that was crazy. I don't want to write like that. I want to write like this. right? So let me see if it works, right? Oh, sweet. So nothing errors out, right? We get our new worlds. We can populate. Let me see. I can get people, maybe p world tree dot name, right? Make sure that that works. Sweet. Everything seems to be working. Much terser code, right? To me, I'd rather write like this than the other way. Once again, you're going to see a lot of code. That's like teaching someone JavaScript and not teaching them functions, but only teaching fat arrows. And then they're like, oh, this is great. I know about functions. And then they see functions and they're like, what the hell is that? I've never seen that written like that. Oh, everyone writes with fat arrows. That's not the case. You're going to see a lot of code written in that same way. Okay? So tested it, make sure it works, everything is good, right? Awesome. Okay, we're moving on. If we wanted to automatically create, right? So this automates the object creation into an array. Well, let's give this a try. I know Matt showed this the other day, the percent W, right? That, I'm just going to copy this because that's going to be great. I'm going to fat figure this. This turns the thing into an array, remember? I remember. I was watching. I was like, man, that's cool. I forget these things. Some of these things are like, oh, man, you remember the W method? And that turns the thing into an array. I'm going to have Milky Way is equal to an empty array. Okay. And then what we can do is loop over our new worlds. We'll do the loop, and then we'll loop over the worlds. We'll produce new worlds, right? So planets.each, right? Do planet. Okay. I'm going to end. Always want to end first, and then I'm going to go back and say world is equal to world.new planet, right? We're passing in the name planet. We already have a default shape, so we won't error out. Right? We have a default shape. And if we didn't earlier, we didn't, and we kind of errored out there. So we just need to give it a name. We will say, hey, Milky Way, come on and like push the world in. And let's see if I P Milky Way. Let's see if this works. It is working. I'm also getting that object ID. It's like showing me everything because I'm asking for all the elements. I am seeing like here is nothing. Here, I'm going to get rid of these two prints here and just say, let me try this one more time. Right? Yeah. So it's giving me that object ID, that GUID, but it's giving me the shape, it's giving me the name, it's giving me the people. Right? So let's type this out. So we have this reproducible class, right? The class was created with the intention of us maybe doing something like this. You know, we're creating a game. Just think, we're creating a game, and then we spin off a new world. My son plays this really cool game on the computer that has planets and stars, and like you can drop suns in there and put planets and have them collide, and you can like change the mass of the planet, and its gravitational pull is absolutely insane, this game. And a lot of gamers play it, and they just kind of walk through a process of creating like 10 Earths that are circling the sun, and they increase the mass of a few of the Earths, and you see them collide after a while, and the little bits and pieces. Oh man, it's like absolutely insane. I forgot the name of it though. Kind of games I wish I had when I was growing up. Just like crazy, awesome science-y things that you can do that other fun stuff with, but you can learn from it. You can like learn gravitational pull, and you can learn like ellipses, and you can see the orbits of the planets. It's like insane. So it looks good. 15, sure works. 10 points so far. I think we're going to have maybe just, yeah. We're just going to get through this next section, this calling methods on a class, because the rest of it's just extra, and we're coming up on, almost 5 o'clock, so I'll give you time to sign the homework. Get your weekend started, Memorial Day. Off on Monday. Sweet. All right. Everything is sweet here. I'm gonna get rid of the comment for the Milky Way. All right, so got nothing's happening, right? So what I want to do is this. I'm going to, I got a lot of stuff in this file. I'm not really sure I want to keep working in this file. So I'm gonna create a new file. I'm gonna call it math.rb. We're gonna create like a little math thing. Okay, so you have a clean slate to start off with. Okay, what we're going to be doing is creating calling methods on a class. So what we have been doing up to this point is instantiating new instances. Instantiating new instance, calling the methods on the instance. But what if I have this class and I don't want to instantiate a new instance of the class? I want to call the methods directly on the class itself, without instantiating new instances. I want it to be like a math library. I don't want to instantiate a new instance of the math library. I want the math library to be the thing. So if we're going to do that, we are going to create a few methods. I'm just going to tab down to line 3, only because I am going to put something above it in just a moment. So I'm going to say def formula 1 is going to take in A, B, and C, right? So we're going to pass in 3 values to the def formula, and I'm going to end it first before I write the internals. A plus B times C. That's our formula. Awesome. I'm going to go to the next one. Def subtract and divide. Okay, pass in 3 things, A, B, C. End. Cool. And once again, using PEMDAS, A minus C divided by B, right? Parens first. And then another one for powers of 3. Only going to pass in 1 thing. Oh. And I will end it, and we'll go in here, and we'll do backticks A times A times A divided by 3. All right. Okay. I mean, if we ran these things, if I said formula 1 in here, and we ran it, everything should work. All right, let's see. Formula 1, right, 2 and 3. Let me just see if this works. I'll break it. Nope, that's the right one. We're doing math. B, right, it's expecting, what did I do wrong? Oh. Math, print formula 1, taking in A, B, and C. Why not 2, 3, something like that. We're going to do the comments. Expecting end of input. What am I doing wrong there? 2, 3.
I used the puts and it worked.
Yeah.
With the formula parenthesis 1, 2, 3.
With the commas?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. Yeah, I don't know why I put one work. All right. Now mine still says puts. Yeah. I'm still saying.
I think you can have the space after the 1.
Oh, okay. Like that?
The formula one.
Oh, I see. They have to be together. Okay. That's it. There we go. Okay. Sweet. So we know it works when you type it right. So what we want to do now is encapsulate all of these formulas. So I'm going to tab it over, and I'm going to put them in a class called Mathy. I'm going to comment the puts out, and here we'll just put end. So we'll end, here's our Mathy class, right? So I have all these methods, and I don't. All right, so here, let me just type this out. There we go. I don't want to do this, okay? I don't want to have to do, hey, Mathy is equal to Mathy.new, like instantiate something and then say, hey, Mathy.formula, formula 1, you know, 1, 2, 3, or 2, 3, 4, whatever. I don't want to do that. We know that that would work, right? I'm going to go to right, unexpected. I'm doing this again. Mathy formula 1, 2, 3. Do it again. Unexpected end. Oh, so I have this end. Let me see where I'm going wrong. Here's our class. Mathy. Oh, I put class uppercase, class lowercase. That's why. Nope. I'm just going to edit this too. I did put class uppercase, it's class lowercase. All right. Oh, I didn't put anything, right? That's why. So P. Okay. And I'm going to do the whole thing, system clear, so we clear all terminal. Sweet. All right, so it works. But I don't want to have to do this. It's like creating a calculator and then producing the calculator every time I want to do math, like instantiate a new instance. I just want to use the same calculator. So we're not going to instantiate a new instance, right? Because that's what that would be. What we want to do is use those methods inside the class. And so the class becomes, I guess, its own instantiation, right? Without instantiating it, we can use it. And in order to do that, we have to update this method. See where it's like formula, we have to reference self.formula and self.subtract and self.powers of 3. And by doing that, now we can leverage undefined, undefined, oh, because I did Mathy here, right? It's no longer Mathy lowercase, it's Mathy uppercase, because we're accessing the methods itself, okay? This is it, all right? And so this allows us now to create a class and just kind of use the class as the thing that we want to use, right? That's easy enough. You know, maybe we just want to create some sort of method that does that, or maybe you know, an object that had those methods, but the same thing, right? If you're creating an object that has methods, you can't really instantiate a new instance of an object, but in principle, I just want to have something that I can call on those methods. Instead of creating an object with methods, I'm just going to create a class with methods. Same concept, I suppose. It's just a different construct of it, right?
Hey, Joe.
Yeah.
Do we need the backticks in the third problem, or is there a reason? Just curious.
Let me see. I think the backticks were there. You know what? I don't really know. I'm going to test it out. Let me test it out and make sure it works. No, we're going to put Mathy powers of 3, and we're going to give it, I don't know, 2. This one. I want to make sure I didn't run undefined local variable Mathy. Oh, because it's Mathy uppercase again. Let's make sure. Command not found A. Why would that be? So let me get rid of these backticks. Let me just say, I assumed, no, yeah, I think the backticks were causing an issue, so I gotta edit this. I'll edit it later, but I'll make a point to edit the lecture. Edit. Though they were there because we had multiple things in the /, but apparently we don't. Maybe once again, if they're there, if they found their way there, like I didn't edit the lecture, so if they found their way there into the lecture, this lecture's been taught plenty of times, so I'm assuming the other instructor must have had a reason for putting it in there, maybe the older version of Ruby, not really sure. But we apparently don't need them. Sweet. So we're feeling good about Ruby? Feeling decent? We're just feeling like it's Friday, it's 5 o'clock, and you just want it all to end. I want it all to end, too. It's like the vacation, it's like the weekend. It's like the vacation's about to start. And I'm built.
It was like circumstantial. Like, hey, you just finished your project. That was awesome, and now you're gonna like totally reset and learn a whole new language. So here you go.
You know, it's almost like, you know, no matter how many times I teach the immersives, it's still the same thing. It's like, oh, great, you guys did great on that project, and guess what? Now, especially Unit 4, now we're throwing stuff that's completely different and new. Like, and you're like not in like even your safe zone anymore. It's like you don't even know what these things do. Wait till you get to Rails and you see how Rails is constructed. You saw how easy it was to build the blog post by just doing the scaffolding, like one small command that Matt had you do. And it built the whole thing. Like you were able to like have a database created like this, routes created. You had a forum, you could actually put things. It was like insane how quickly Rails spins up a server and builds everything for you. And you'll see that, you know, coming next week, you're going to see how Rails works and its construct. And then the fact that you understand Express, you're going to understand a bit more how Rails works without going from the ground up and being like, oh my God, this is like, what's this thing? And why is that thing called that? You'll see the things, but outside of that, there is a lot of new material. So give it the weekend, absorb it, do all the homework, all the good homework. Sweet. Any questions? Any questions?
So I don't know. It's been a while since I've did the powers of something, but a number cubed would be the number times itself 3 times, right?
Yeah.
So what is the divided by 3?
It's a good question.
At the end. Like I don't understand that part of it.
So powers of 3, right? So if you did give it a
So
number,
like 2 cubed.
times 2, yeah. I don't see why 2. What are we getting? We're getting 2? Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Like I almost feel like whoever put that in there, I don't know if it's like just a bad joke. Somebody put that in there. I agree. It's not a power of 3, not if you're dividing by it. It really doesn't make any sense.
But 8 is the correct answer though, right?
Yeah,
2 times
8. It's 2 times 2, and yeah, it's 2 to the 3rd power, right?
Yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah. Good question. So I'm going to edit that lecture to get rid of that. Maybe somebody put that in there. Be like, let's trip up Joe and his math skills. Could be. All right. Wait for, reach out to Jerica, give the homework, and then we can send everyone on their way for the weekend. Jerica must have just stepped away for a minute. Anyone doing anything cool over the weekend? Any big plans? Besides Ruby?
I'm actually driving up north to go see my family in Cleveland, so that'll be pretty cool.
Sweet. I've never been to Cleveland. I'd love to go one day.
Come to Columbus. I think you'd have more fun in Columbus here than you would in Cleveland. I mean, Cleveland has some cool stuff, like they have the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and
Science.
No, Jeff, I live in New York City, dude. I go into Manhattan and I have more. There are times when I walk through 42nd Street and I am like almost disgusted by all of the lights and the advertising. I got out of the train one day and I was like, at like 11 p.m. at night, and the city was brighter than, like, it's mind blowing. They're like every building. It's just insane. another like museum to go to or like restaurant is just like, oh, another place.
Well, considering in New York City we literally have like everything that you can name just about, or a variation of it.
yeah, I've actually never been to New York. I'd love to go sometime.
Yeah, you'll love it. Come down, man. Hook you up. We'll hook you up. Me and Aaron. Aaron will come all the way from upstate.
It's really not that far. It's like a 90-minute drive.
Yeah.
By train, it's like an hour.
You're all welcome to the great
Well, that's
NYC.
2 hours. 2 hours.
We'll take a good care of you. All right. All right, Jerica. I'm going to pass it on.
All right, I posted the link to the lab in Slack. I'll give you guys a lab first because you still have about 50 minutes for class to go, and then I'll bring you guys back at about 2:50 or sorry, 5:50. Yeah, 5:50 to announce the homework and then let you guys go for the weekend. But yeah, for now, lab, I posted the link in Slack. You can just take a look at it there. It's just going to be practicing classes. If you'd prefer to start with the morning lab because you guys didn't have time for that this morning, you can go ahead and take a look at the student labs folder. It's in there as well. That's just more kind of challenge problems to practice there. So I'll go ahead and open up breakout rooms. Actually, I think I need to set them up first. So give me a second.
Okay. You're still so close to the end, people. Still so close. Just keep that in mind. 50 minutes away. 50 minutes away.
So, Joe, you know what I'm going to do, though, once this class is over, right? I'm coming down. I'm coming down to the city. We can go grab a beer.
I think when the class is over, you're going to be like, Joe, I have this random question. And when I ask you a random question, that's it. Can somebody create emoji for like random question that has Aaron's face on it? Too funny, man. Shared.